So, thank you for joining me on this Friday. Usually, Friday is the day that we're happy to celebrate because it's the end of a work week. But right now, that's kind of changed. So, everybody's got a different work week now. Some people don't even have a work week. And, that's just the state that we're in right now. So, if you are at home, thank you for joining me this evening. I do appreciate everybody that hops on the show. It just I try to do the best that I can, reaching out to people and using this forum, and especially in the time like right now. I've reached out to a lot of friends, people who are close to me that are really affected by this, that have been furloughed and that sort of a thing. So, just reach out to somebody today if you get the chance. Check on that person, give them a phone call, FaceTime them, Zoom them, whatever it is you have to do, and reach out. People really need to hear from each other, just to let them know that they're out there, because they might be in a situation like I am, where I'm quarantined, and I really do enjoy those messages when I have people reach out to me. So yeah, take the time, show a little kindness, a little gratitude. Like my friend Russ always says, those things really go a lot. It'll surprise you. So let me go ahead and get started about tonight's guest. So this is somebody that we connected on LinkedIn, and I've been telling this story. Probably it sounds like I'm repeating it, but we actually got really close meeting on the Pirate Broadcast, which is hosted by Russ Johns. And if you guys aren't on LinkedIn, he's also on Facebook. So you can go check him out. Shout out to Mr. Russ Johns. His website is www.russjohns.com. He does a show called the Pirate Broadcast Monday through Friday. He streams it live, kind of like I do. Well, he's the innovator that started doing that, and that's kind of like followed his path. So I met Carol Campos, who's going to be our guest this evening on the Pirate Broadcast. That's where I was first introduced to her, and we just started reaching out and having conversations and following each other for a while. So I'm thrilled to have her on, because she also does a podcast. And when I was getting into podcasting, she was one of the first ones that I listened to, because she does a podcast with a co-host with her best friend, Deb Sorensen, and they do a podcast called The Divine Breadcrumb. And the reason I was so interested, because I wanted to do a podcast with the co-host, and I just wanted to know how the ins and outs of doing something like that with a partner works. So she kind of gave me advice, kind of helped me out there, and I was really appreciative. So, without further ado, everybody, do me a favor and help me welcome Carol to the show. Hey, Carol.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy to have you here. So while I was just giving the introduction, I was just telling everybody about, how we met. I was giving a little shout out to Russ, because that's where I was first introduced to you, and I saw you on his show. And it's so funny that I've reached out to a lot of people through that channel. So I tell him all the time, his show, whatever he does, it's really making an impact, because it's making, I'm having real connections with people that I've met on there. So people that I've met on there, I've already had, 1, 2, 3 guests already. So now that I've met through that show, and these are people that I still have like really close connections with even afterwards. So, thank you for coming on this evening. I do appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's an honor. I'm so happy to be here.
So let me go ahead and get started, because one of the things that I was talking about when I introduced you was the fact that you do a podcast. And the reason I was so interested in you at first was because you had already been doing a podcast. You do a podcast with your friend, Deb Sorensen. She's your co-host, and you do a podcast called The Divine Breadcrumb. And I was so fascinated at first, because it was like a lot of the stuff I was studying at the time as well, wanting to learn about that. And then the dynamic of it was 2 of you, because I wanted to do a podcast as well about mental health with a co-host. So you were kind of like the example that I wanted to follow whenever I started putting this all together. So I actually reached out to you, and you kind of gave me some good advice about just as far as doing the background work, how you guys separate everything, who does what responsibilities. So yeah, I was real appreciative of that. So tell me a little bit more about actually how you got started in doing podcasting, and what was the idea behind the name of the show, The Divine Breadcrumb?
Oh, okay. Well, so the divine breadcrumb, it's a term that I've been using for a few years, even before we started. And it basically just meant, those signs you get from the universe, those synchronicities that you follow. And, if you pay attention, it can lead your life in a whole new direction. So one day I was working out, which I hate doing, but I think I was doing something that I hate, like a plank or push up. And this download came through to create some type of community and call it the Divine Breadcrumb. Oh, wow. And, my first thought was, whoa, where did that even come from?
Right.
And then the next thing I did, I kind of got excited about it. And for me, when you get that kind of buzzy feeling, energy. Yeah. So I got that. And so I was like, all right, I got to go talk to Deb. I went to her house. She got really excited about it too. But we didn't know what does this mean? And what's funny is neither one of us remembers who decided to do a podcast. Like in my memory, she came up with the idea, and for her, it was me. So anyway, that was another divine breadcrumb. It just came from nowhere. So we decided, all right, we're going to do a podcast. Well, neither one of us knew anything about podcasting. I don't think at that point Deb had even listened to a podcast, to be honest. So yeah. But in typical divine breadcrumb fashion, what ended up happening is like 2 days later, an email hit Deb's inbox, and it was from Creative Live, and they were offering a week-long free podcast training. And wow. It was every day, 9 to 5, with some of the best in the business. One of the first instructors was Tim Ferriss. It was just crazy. So to us, it was like, okay, that's the universe telling us you got to do that. So we were such geeks. This is so funny. So here's the thing. It was free if you watched the live stream. After that, it was a few $100s. So every morning I'd go to her house, and she had her laptop hooked up to the TV. We have our notebooks, and oh my gosh. So, we took notes on everything. Looking back, we probably didn't need to know half of that, but we, being the little good students we were, we wanted to learn it all. And I believe the course, that was probably the beginning of August. And then so in the meantime, I'm trying to write content, and Deb is a web developer. So she was building the site, and we're just learning whatever we could. And then we ended up going live on November 11th of 2018.
Yeah. So essentially, you kind of did the same thing I did. You just jumped in, you just started learning right on the fly without any kind of previous background in doing podcasting. And, that's why I tell everybody now, everybody's asking me, how quickly have you, this is pretty impressive, everything you've done together. And if I told everybody I started doing this March 1st, they wouldn't believe it, because it was just a study of how fast you really want to learn. And I've told, again, same sort of deal. I started everything with free. I've just recently barely started doing upgrades on certain things, but again, I was doing all this on a budget. I was, because I didn't want to throw hundreds of dollars into, like if you go watch videos, they'll tell you, oh, you need this, you need that, you need, $700 piece of equipment and all this. And then I said, I don't have that kind of money to throw into doing video. So again, and then it was just reaching out to the right people at the right time. And that's where Russ came in, because Russ told me how to put all this stuff together. He kind of walked me through a little bit, little by little. And he said, try this, try that. He gave me tips and advice. And, and then from there, I just accelerated my learning. just essentially spending every waking moment that I wasn't working or being a father and putting it into learning how to do production. And, you know, I don't know if you can see that little overlay that kind of lays on the top there. I made that myself. So all the stuff that I've been learning to do, it's just been practice, practice, practice. So again, when I first started, you go watch my first video, whenever I was doing interviews, I cringe because, you know, I didn't know where to look. I didn't know how to, you know, have candor with people, how to, you know, learning how to do interview skills is really.
Oh yeah. I'm laughing because that was so us. I remember our first couple of interviews, and we weren't even on camera, it's audio only, but I'd have, you know, all right, I have my water, I have my chapstick, you know, and I would be nervous for hours before. And, you know, not that, I mean, because we definitely do our due diligence and I always want a good show and all that, but the nerves, I might get a little butterflies. It's more of like an anticipation thing, but it's not nearly. And of course, we did sound a little robotic in the beginning too.
And I think that's kind of like the same sort of thing that I went through, the same kind of progressions, because again, you don't know what to do. You know, here I am. I can look at the screen now, look at the camera, and I'm looking at Instagram. I'm doing Instagram separately from what I'm doing here. So I'm kind of learning how to do multi-camera setup, this sort of thing right here. But, you know, again, it all goes back to just practice. So, you know, you don't learn how to master a violin or playing a piano without hours and hours of putting in practice. So that's what I've been doing here. And I just tell everybody, look, what I've done on an accelerated scale, you don't have to. You can go to, if you wanted to use video, it's pretty simple. Go to your phone, pick up your phone. You can go to Facebook, you can go to Instagram, you can go to, you can download Zoom. These are all fairly easy to use tools. And I call them tools because it is a tool. I was preaching this to people before all this stuff hit, that these are tools that you can start using in business. You can use these tools in schooling. And now this is what we're relying on to still function as a society. And it's crazy that, but again, I think once this all moves forward and we move forward as a society, it's going to be more ingrained in what we do every day. Yeah. And, you know, I tell people that if you want to start doing things now's the time to start jumping on and learning how to do all these things, because every day they're upgrading all their aspects, each one of these platforms. So Facebook has a new integration on their Facebook page. So if you go to Facebook now, you can go to what they call the Creator Studio, and it lets you do all your content, everything for a page that you got on there. They've changed the layout completely, even to go live. So they're stepping their game up because they have to. Apps like what I'm using now, like StreamYard and a few others, are forcing them to change the way that they operate when they're doing live video. So same thing with Instagram. Instagram's just introduced a couple weeks ago, you could go live now on Instagram with 2 people. So you can actually introduce somebody into your thing and have a conversation like we're having now on Instagram. You couldn't do that before. That was, you know, that's a new feature they're coming out because, again, people are now at home. People are looking for things to do. Yeah. And people also want to be able to have these kind of conversations for business as well. So if you're working from home and you're telecommuting and it's your job to, you know, have these sales presentations or reach out and have, you know, any kind of meeting as well, these are the tools that you can literally learn. So, I know I'm blabbing on, but I get excited. I get excited talking about it right now because it's interesting.
Yeah, well, no, and honestly, I'm so impressed with everything you've done in such a short period of time. Like I told you before we went live, I need to step up my game, seriously.
Yeah, and you know, I've just been telling people it's not really too hard to get into the game because again, a lot of people are being forced into it. Me and my guest last night were talking about this. You're getting forced into doing some of these things now. So you got to learn how to do the technological side of certain things that you didn't have to do before if you want to continue to do business.
Mhm.
Because again, I call it living in what I call the new norm right now, because we don't have a time period, and this is what we're going to expect for a while. So, you got to learn how to operate and adjust. So, one of the things that I also wanted to talk to you about, because it's real important and real prevalent right now, is you do life coaching as well. And that sort of thing is, I guess, something that people really can focus on right now, because a lot of people are at home now. They might have the time, whereas opposed to before, they say, well, I don't have time to integrate life coaching into my routine now. So now you got a little free time. So tell me about how you actually got started in life coaching, and a little bit about what you do with with the methodology you have called Life Flip. That's pretty interesting. I was reading on that as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for asking. Yeah. So when I left corporate a couple of years ago, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had mentored and coached in that setting for many years.
Yeah.
And after I left corporate, I kind of, I had this whole plan, like, all right, I'm going to leave. I'm going to figure out what I want to do. It's going to take me maybe 6 weeks, and it'll be all set.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened. I was kind of like spinning out of control.
Yeah.
So I ended up hiring my own life coach, Michael Sandler, who I just love him, and I can't say enough about him. He hosts the show Inspire Nation show. You can catch it on YouTube and all the podcast players. But anyway, he also coaches. And so I had been listening to his show for a while already. And then I thought, okay, I need help. And he just seems so much more aligned with how I am than some of the other coaches. And not to say that other coaches aren't great.
Yeah.
I just knew kind of what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And he has kind of the spiritual side, but he also the business, the metaphysical, all those things I liked. So I started working with him, and it was about 2 months in that the Divine Breadcrumb idea came through. And then a few months after that, we had been talking a lot about what I want to do aside from the podcast. And he said, I've been thinking about doing a master certification program for the type of coaching I do. And he said, and, I'm not going to put it out there. I'm going to handpick the people. What do you think about that? And I pretty much like leapt off the chair. Like right? Everything in me was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. Yeah. So yeah, fast forward a few months, that's what I ended up doing. I went through his program. There were only a few of us in the program, and it was amazing. It was everything that I wanted. But, the nice thing about that type of coaching is, we live in a physical world. We have bills to pay. There's things, you have to have the practical side, but a lot of people have old wounds and things they need to heal from. I know I did, or these limiting beliefs that are hard to identify without somebody helping. As a coach, you're not giving somebody the answers, but you're trying to help illuminate what's going on so that they can connect with their own higher wisdom, come up with their own answers. And that really appealed to me. So I really like to help people find their own path, find their voice, heal those old wounds, feel empowered, and either avoid some of the pitfalls that I went through when I was younger, or help them navigate those dark nights of the soul. Because I went through some really dark, rough times in my 20s and again in my early 40s. And honestly, those were the best things that could have happened to me in some ways, because there's no way I could be the coach that I am now without going through that type of thing. And, I don't know about you. I would have trouble going to a coach who appeared perfect and had it all together. And that would just be way too intimidating. I'd rather have somebody who's telling me what they're still working through, what their challenges are, and not afraid to share those things. So I've modeled a lot of my coaching after what Michael has taught me, and then kind of brought in my own personality, my own experiences, and kind of glommed it all together to present something that feels good to me.
Yeah. And again, you know, everybody, if you can't look back on somebody and say, yeah, I was a flawed person and I understand and I can, I can help you because I've had those experiences and that sort of thing. That's the kind of person that, again, I would want to read, I would want to learn from, uh, because they say failure is the best teacher that you can have. That's how you're going to learn to do things, right? Is through your failures. And again, somebody who comes off as being, oh, I've, I don't think I could go to somebody like, say, Tony Robbins, right? He would intimidate me too much.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you true, he would intimidate me too much because you see him and you see what he's gone through. You've seen how he is now. You're like, well, I couldn't get to that level. I don't think, but somebody that's who can understand you on your level and help you grow like that. I think that's the kind of coaching everybody needs, and those people that can steer you in the right direction whenever you're sort of lost, right? You're rudderless, just floating down the water, trying to figure out what direction you're supposed to go in life. And when you find that person that can help give you the directions, well, think again. Those are what you call the divine breadcrumbs, right? Those are the little pieces that people sprinkle and leave that trail for you to find. And
exactly. And I know for me, I mean, I spent many years knowing that I was living a life that didn't fit, but I didn't know how to extricate myself from that. I had built it. I had been along for the ride the whole time, but I just knew, like, and it wasn't from an ego place that I'm meant for something big and better. I just knew I was meant for something different. I just didn't know what that looked like. And that's why when I left corporate, I purposely did not have a job to go to. I knew I needed time to do personal discovery, as scary as that was, because anyone who knows me, I'm a planner. I don't just, I'll just fly by the seat of my pants. So this was just very different for me, but yet I knew I had to do it because I kept attracting the same types of circumstances into my life. And I had to learn how to break that down and figure it out and get past it and do all those things. And, you had asked about Life Flip. One of the reasons Deb and I put that program together is, well, there's a few reasons. I mean, one, we had people coming to us saying, how did you do this? Here we're both in our 50s, changing our lives pretty drastically. And how'd you do it? And weren't you afraid? And because people think it's too late, or they're not smart enough, or it'll never work, or it's, all these things. So we wanted to develop a program where people could do some of the personal discovery work that I teach in my one-to-one coaching. Mm-hmm. And then if they even want the business side, we have some modules about that too. If they're thinking about opening a heart-centered business, or if they just want to change careers, but feel like, all right, I'm going to be starting at the bottom. A lot of people think they're going to have to start from zero, and that's not true. You have so much wisdom and experience and, from your life, your professional experience to bring to the table. So between that and also, some people, it's just not financially feasible for some people to do one-on-one coaching. And this is definitely, a lesser investment in that sense. It's also a self-paced course, with everybody being busy, all the modules are online. So it just felt like the right thing for us to do.
Yeah. And, again, I tell everybody, like, even I went through looking for this sort of thing, and I said, what's it to you to invest in yourself, right? Because it's really what it is. It's an investment in yourself. Mm-hmm. So, how much time, how much are you willing to invest in you to grow as a person and develop? I mean, because the alternative if you don't. Mm-hmm. Again, and like you said, you left corporate America. You did not have a job. You literally burned the boats. You were going to take the island. You weren't going back. And I tell everybody, if you make that choice, don't look back. Go forward. Don't, who cares if you fall down, if you trip? That's going to happen. even I don't care who the most successful person you can think of, right? They're going to fall down, no matter how far they get as being successful. I mean, somebody like Steve Jobs, right? He got fired from his own company.
Yeah.
Even as successful as he was, he got, again, fell down, tripped, had to be humbled, saw what he learned from that, and then when he came back into the graces, started doing everything, you saw just everything go explode, go to the next level. Because again, it doesn't matter. You're going to stumble, you're going to fall, but that's how you're going to learn
exactly
to become that person you're meant to be. So like I heard somebody say, reinvent yourself as many times as you have to.
That's right. That's right. Begin again. Where's the rule book that says you can't begin again over and over if you need to? You know, we're so conditioned to think we have to go one certain way, and that if we don't go that way, it's a failure. I mean, I have to say, I've pivoted a few times since I've left corporate, and yes, you know, to your point about investing in yourself, that was another scary thing. Even hiring the coach, that was scary. It's like, well, I gave myself a certain runway. Should I spend the money? You know, there's a lot of that. But honestly, for me, it was the best thing I could have done because it reined me in. It taught me so many tools. And then the divine breadcrumbs of, you know, coming up with the podcast.
Yes.
Then because I met Michael and had that relationship with him, becoming one of his coaches and starting my own coaching practice, like it just kept going, and I just kept following the steps and being open, because things today aren't what I imagined when I left corporate. I had no idea, but just staying open to it and being okay with, you know, stumbling once in a while, and there's no shame in needing help with that.
No, exactly. And you know, I think at some point everybody's going to ask for help. You know, because you're not born with all the answers. You don't.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You know, show me somebody that says all the answers, and I'll call them a liar to their face. There's no way. You know, so I tell everybody, don't be ashamed, don't be scared to ask for advice. Again, that's how I'm learning, right? This is how I got down. If I would have been too afraid to even reach out to Russ and say, hey, I like what you're doing. I mean, I've reached out to him. I reached out to Adam Posner. I've reached out to a lot of guys who were up there doing like real level high stuff. And I said, that's what I want to do. So how am I going to learn to do that? Why don't I go straight to the source and ask them? And just, again, you don't know what kind of response you're going to get if you don't even ask for the help.
Exactly.
So, you know, you learn, that's how you're going to learn these things. So reaching out to a life coach, asking if you're trying to figure out life, well, what better way than somebody who's kind of help you take those steps to, if you need the focus, right? So that was one of the main problems that I figured out. And that's kind of like what coaching got me to be, is focus, funnel that focus, son, get it into the right state of minds. And once I started doing that, I literally just started doing all this and soared. I mean, again, I took off. I just started saying, okay, I wrote down my goals, and they told me, hey, they taught me about SMART goals. I never knew what that was. So and I wrote them down, and I kind of put my ideas into the way they told me. And before you know it, I said, there's my plan. Here's what I got to do. And it just started going from there. And I haven't looked back since, and I'm not going to. You know, because again, this has become a passion of what I do. Again, this is what I get up every morning. Even now, I'm here quarantined. I can't go nowhere. I can't do anything, but yet I'm still getting up at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm starting my day working on learning. And I never would have done it before.
But that's it. It was part of your soul's calling, and it was that creativity that you're channeling.
Yes. So that's why that's why everybody asked me the name about the show. What is this show about, right? So I call it about creative souls, because everybody has creativity. Every person here has some sort of creative aspect to them. And it's not just about writing. It's not just about singing. It's just not about music. It's not just about art. Creativity goes so many different ways. You know, if you can put together, you know, a coaching program, your creative mind put all it together, came up with a concept from inside your mind, put it out into an idea, into a vision, and made it into a reality. So that's why I call it made from scratch, because I've heard so many conversations with people, and this was always one of the things I would always hear. They say, well, I started my business from scratch. I didn't have anything. I said, that's it. That's what I got to do. This is my thing too. I'm starting from scratch. I don't have anything. I didn't have the idea. I didn't know what I was doing. But again, I'm formulating my idea, my vision, and I just started bringing it into reality. So, creative souls to me are just, again, anybody that can sit there and, people, they generalize talent and creativity as one sort of thing. And I think it goes beyond that. It's, if you're able to articulate something a lot better than somebody, that's part of who you are as a creative person,
Absolutely.
So, now let me ask you real quick, because we're both learning this right now, and we're learning how to operate in this new environment that we've essentially been thrown in. We didn't have an option. Everybody's just been thrown into the same boat and say, okay, figure out life. So how are you doing as far as adjusting to what's going on around us now? So, what kind of adjustments have you had to make?
Well, I work from home, and my daughter's all grown up. So on the surface, things don't feel very different. Yeah. It's only when I have to go to the grocery store that it feels like I'm in a Stephen King novel,
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm kind of in my little bubble. But even being home, I have been having waves of emotion, and I know I'm tapping into something bigger. And I was kind of like a roller coaster of emotions last week. I would say, last Monday I was kind of teary. It was like right below the surface. And then the next day I was exhausted. And then I was really antsy. And, it's funny because a lot of the fears that are coming up, I was thinking this, and I've heard other people say this, but I just don't know what's going to happen. I'm just fearful. Everything is unknown. But truth be told, we have never known what's going to happen. We've never had control. It's just an illusion. Just because the Starbucks and your hairdresser were open didn't mean you actually had control. So once I kind of really came to grips with that,
yes.
It became a little more level, as far as my emotions. And I've been doing a lot of work to stay in alignment. I've upped my self-care and meditation and, staying present, staying in the moment, stop going into the future, because the present moment that's where the calmness is.
Yeah. What you just told me kind of lit me up a little bit, because it goes back to what I believe in, my faith. And I said, you know what? I didn't realize it until you just said it. I never had control anyway. I never, it was the control. Look, this is what I carry with me, right? So because I'm quarantined, I have this. This is my operations manual here for me. This is just personal. Everybody's got their own faith. I keep my notebook, which I write all ideas, anything like this that I have, of course. And then I've been doing a lot of meditation work, and I've just started doing meditation. So it's kind of, I'm learning how to do it and integrate it into what I've been doing as far as centering myself, because same sort of deal with, like you said, all the emotions, all this stuff's coming to the surface. And, that's how you have to address it when it's there, when it's right there, when you're in the moment, and you want to know what's triggering all this. What's, why am I feeling, anxious? Why am I feeling scared? Why am I, why do I feel like emotional? Why do I want to cry right now?
Right.
So dealing with those. And then again, kind of like what you just told me right there, I said, hello, right? I never had control anyway. That was beyond what, again, but it's perception. You're right. It's the perception that everybody has. Oh my God, it took I can't go to the store now, and I can't go buy, my favorite brand of rice.
Right.
you know, what is it? Again, you're worried about the wrong things. Um, and
Exactly.
and again, I'm sorry. I don't I don't watch the news. I don't.
I don't either. And
I don't.
I'll tell you, I still know everything that's going on. You can't help but know in this day and age.
You're exactly right. But I don't sit there and turn on the 5 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, the 10 o'clock, the 9 o'clock news, and having to hear about how many cases and because again, it all that does is just going to help me pound myself into a negative state of mind, and I sure as heck do not want to be there. You know.
Exactly. And where's that panic going to get you? I mean, it's overwhelming if you watch the news. And I think we just have to be careful about not trying to figure out everything at once. Just taking that one inspired step at a time in your own daily life. That's all you can do. And another thing I've done to kind of help with the fear is, every day trying to do something that I love, trying to show up with love.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing something you love, you're connecting to something greater, and it changes your brain chemistry. And it's not selfish to do something like that. We need to do that right now. And more of that is needed, because just the way you show up, Gabriel, for your show, you show up with such just a loving, calm presence, and that's what's needed. That's what I'm trying to do as well. Video's not as much as my jam as it is for you, but definitely, whether it's in writing or video, people that are heart-centered or consider themselves light workers, it's like time to step up.
Yeah. And you essentially can kind of get rid of all the fear and all the worry and all the panic by simply just understanding the environment around you and relying a lot on what you believe in. So if you're a person of faith, right, which I am, I read scripture, I pray, I meditate. Those are the things that keep me calm and centered. That's for me. That's how I work through it. Everybody's going to have a different way, but again, you got to look at, you got to sit there and look at it from your own perspective of how can I make myself and how can I make this situation, because you're in a situation no matter what. I'm sorry. If you wake up, you go to the store tomorrow, guess what? You're dealing with the same situation, no matter race, creed, money, income, all that is gone away. You still have to deal with the same sort of thing. So how are you going to deal with that? So again, take the time, put in the work, and work on yourself. I'm that's why I like, reaching out to, people like yourself, because you help people come to the realization of these things. Because a lot of people don't understand that. Of course, like I said, I threw myself into it. I wanted to study it. So I've been doing like all kinds of, even though I'm not a psychologist, I've been doing all kinds of reading into brain work, neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, shadow work, all these different things, because a lot of them have a lot of the same principles. And it kind of teaches you how to learn to become self-aware. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do as a person, is just trying to be more aware of my self-presence and not worry so much about letting the environment around me control my emotions and control the things that, you laid it out. You don't have control over anyway, And I think that's one of the things that we have to learn to understand, is we don't have control. We never did. We never. I'm going to use that now because it was such a great line.
Feel free.
It sparked my mind. God, nobody said that yet. I haven't figured it. So again, this is my divine breadcrumb. You talking about this.
That's right.
Has going to be in that little piece that drops. Thank you, Carol.
Well, and I think you talked a lot about everything you're doing. If we're trying to glean some, silver lining or some good out of everything that's going on, maybe that's part of what we're being called to do. To go inward, take that time to do the inner work. And it doesn't mean doing nothing, because I know there's going to be a lot of people like, I don't want to meditate. I don't want to, but do what you feel called to do. because now you have some time to do it.
Yeah. And again, I mean, the alternative is just being reactive to everything that's happening around you. And if you're being reactive to everything, then that means you have to wait on another situation to happen to react to how that's going to be. Where as opposed to if you're being proactive in your life and staying ahead of the game. Again, I was proactive in what I was doing. So right now, everybody's just starting to catch up on how to do video and all this stuff. Me being proactive and jumping into it and not hesitating, saying, okay, I need to wait for everything to align before I start doing live video. No, you know what? I just said, when I started to learn to become focused, I said, I'm just going to go into it and see where the universe has for me, where it's going to take me, because if I don't do it, I'll never know if I can be great at it or not. You got to take the first step. So real quick too, let me ask you, going forward, and once we get past a lot of this, what's in the cards? What's in the future for Carol Campos? What do you have planned as far as looking down the road?
So, well, recently I was chosen to be a contributing author for an online women's magazine called Luminous Wisdom, so I'll be writing articles between June 2020 and May 2021, which all sounded fantastic, and I was honored, but now I actually have to do it. So it's hard enough sometimes for me to come up with ideas for blog posts for the Divine Breadcrumbs. So now I have to find out, new things to write about. So that's one thing. As we talked about, Deb and I released Life Flip. We already have another course that we want to bring to life, and I'm hoping by the end of this year. One of the things we really wanted to do, and then the virus happened, was start going on the road and doing more kind of in-person workshops.
Yeah.
And then of course we want to continue with the podcast, and I want to continue to coach people and who are feeling that pull to do more, especially at this time, or are in need of healing, or both.
Yeah. Again, you guys, you guys do amazing work, and
thank you.
I love the guests that you guys have on, and you guys have a real good chemistry, and I guess that goes back to the friendship you guys have had for a long time. And, because when I first did my first podcast with my guest host, we had to work on it a little bit and trying to figure out, and I wasn't as nervous because I'd already started doing video at that time. So to me, I felt relieved I was doing audio, because then I didn't have to worry about camera, what am I, that sort of thing. So I was just concentrating on my notes and having a good conversation. But I think you have to learn how to do, but what you guys are doing, because you have two people, then when you have a guest on, figuring out how you guys interact with the guest, who starts the introduction, who does the questioning, and when is the right time to jump in and ask the next question. So that's a pretty interesting dynamic that you guys do, and y'all make it seem very seamless. So
thanks. I think in the beginning we talked over each other and the guests a little bit too much, because it's, in this conversation, as you and I are talking, as I'm saying something, you're nodding. So that gives me that clue, like, okay, he gets what I'm saying. Well, of course, when you're audio only, you're not seeing the person. So you're like, okay, are they done? Are they, so we had to get better about kind of keeping quiet, because if there's, a little dead air time, that can always be edited out. But that's better than talking over your guest.
Again, and that's a skill you have to learn. Because that was one of the things that I first started doing when I first started learning to do video. I started watching people doing interviews and giving tips and advice. And one of the best ones that I heard was learn when to shut up and learn when to become an active listener. So, that's why I create show notes, I create questions, but I don't always use them, because my thing is I let the flow of the conversation lead and dictate how the conversation is going to go. Because again, the guy that I was listening to, and he made really good sense, was he told me was Oh, check it out. So Santosh here, he's one of the guys who's been following me. He's over in India. So
Ah,
I got people who are actually following me from abroad, which is pretty cool.
isn't that the best? I know.
Yes.
It's so
So
exciting.
so what he was saying was essentially was if somebody drops a nugget of information into your lap and you don't listen to it because you're too busy focusing on your questions, then you're going to pass up the opportunity to have a really good conversation. And the example that he used was he was talking to he was a clinical psychologist, right? And but the guy was talking about how he got into his major and he went to clown college. He was a clown.
No way.
Yeah, he was a clown to make his way through college to pay for it. So the
Mm.
guy goes, "Wait a minute, whoa. First of all, how do you become a clown?" And then, go from a psychologist to a clown. I mean, again, and they went off on another about 10, 15-minute rant, and he told him the whole story behind it. But again, if the guy wouldn't have been paying attention, if he would have just bypassed it and went to his next question, hey, here we go. I got my questions right here in front of me. Hey, okay, so it says here that you were, you got those kind of interviews. If you want to watch that kind of interview, go watch the nightly news or go watch, Brian. I can't remember the name. Anyway, those guys. Those are the kind of guys that kind of have structured formats and that kind of.
Mhm.
But this is what we're doing as far as video. This is the fun aspect to it to me. So we can have a conversation that we're having now, and we can start talking about different aspects about your life that if somebody goes back and watches this and say the next interview that wants to come on and ask you, he said, well, I wasn't even thinking about asking her that. Let me think about it now. I heard a podcast that you were on with the, what was his name? Anyway, because I was doing a lot of research and I was listening to different podcasts on, because you got quite a bit you've been on. I don't know if you know that, but that was quite a little bit. So I was quite trying to catch up with this, try to find those little, because I like to do my research.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I like to be a little bit structured as far as knowing who I'm going to have on. But then again, I also like to be a little fun and free with it, because this is my creative part of who I am.
Exactly. And it draws people out.
Yeah. And again, you get those kind of people and that want to come on, and I tell them, they go, well, what is the theme of your show? Or do I come in too high energy? I said, bro, whatever your energy is, bring it. That's what I want.
Exactly.
I don't, you don't have to be, if you're used to wearing a suit and tie, take the tie off. Let's calm down, because it's all about the conversation that I want to have with you. And that's what I like to do, is to just make sure I have a good conversation. And I put a lot of work into the pre-production. A lot of people don't focus on it. They always try to work on post-production, because that's pretty important when you're doing audio.
Mm-hmm.
Post-production is a lot to do with doing an audio podcast, because again, there's editing, there's you want to put your intro, your outro, all those kind of things in there, because I'm learning how to do podcasting as well. So so those things you really work on. But I kind of took Russ's philosophy, and he said, I don't like to do a lot of post-work editing. And I said, you know what? He's absolutely right. That's why I follow him. That's why he is who he is. So, again, guys, we've actually been on for 50 minutes already, and it didn't even feel like it. It flew by, because again, when you have those kind of conversations, you just want to keep continuing to talk. But I know that everybody's still got a life to kind of do. And just real quick, so if you guys get a chance, you guys can go check out Carol's website, and I would suggest you go there and check out her. You go check out her coaching, and then you can also go to the Divine Breadcrumb, and there is a litany of things you can go there. There's a blog that she does. She's got a podcast there. She's got her life flip coaching there. So that's like a real, I spent about 2-3 hours just messing around on your site today, because I was just doing a lot of reading and research on you. And again, I went back and looked at your guys' podcast episodes, and I go, gosh, she's got so many now. Going back and looking and seeing episode of
You'll get there. You're getting there fast.
I'm lacking on my podcasting side. I'll tell you that much. I'm not going to lie about that. Because I do rack up a lot of episodes and stuff doing this nightly. So, every week is 5 shows. So,
I'm so impressed. I don't think I could do that.
But it's like anything. Once you start getting the hang of it and start doing it, it gets a little bit easier. And again, what I love about it is I get to be creative. I get to go show my creative side as far as, creating all the overlays, doing all the little behind the work, so that when I'm done, what I usually do after I'm done is I'll do what Russ told me to do. Was I download the audio, I go put it into podcast format, and then I upload it on Anchor and let it go from there. And that's what I do with this one. And I do a separate podcast by myself, that's where I do a lot of work though on that one. I love to do a lot of research, and then that's where I'm learning to do the editing, all that sort of thing. So that's kind of been another little labor of love that I'm learning how to do.
Yep, all that fun stuff.
Because it is a labor of love, if you don't know, guys. Again, and if you want to do podcasting, you want to do video, it's pretty simple just to hop into it. You don't have to do super hard. You don't have to do super technical. It's just for the people who really want to put a lot of time and effort into their product. So if that's what you're doing, but if you just want to get a message out, if you really just want to go out there and say, hey, because I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week, and our conversation was, she's got a lot of stuff ready. She's got all this. I said, well, why aren't you doing it? And she's like, well, it seems pretty complicated. It's not complicated at all. It's only complicated because you heard some podcasting guru tell you you needed a $600 Rodecaster Pro. You needed the Rodecaster type dynamic mic. You need fill your head with all this stuff. And again, pick up your phone, go to Anchor, spend $10, buy a lavalier mic that you can post right here on your shirt right there, and start talking away. That's all you really need.
Exactly. The mic I use is what I have right here. This is what I've been using all along. Someday we might get more expensive equipment, but it's not the priority at the moment.
And to me, it sounds clear as a bell. If I were just to listen to your podcast, I wouldn't even know that you were using it.
It's so funny. People will say, are you guys in the studio? It's like, I used to be in my kitchen. We're not, Deb and I aren't even in the same space. I was in my kitchen. Now I'm kind of in a little home office, but she's in her office, 15 minutes away at her house.
Yeah. So again,
it works
as seamlessly. It doesn't even tell. And again, you don't have to have the multi-million-dollar equipment. You don't have to have a $10,000 podcast studio to sound that good.
Exactly. And people need to know what you have to give. So
yeah, exactly. And it's all about the message, and the content. That's what really people are going to pay attention to. So if you got to, guys, get out there, you want to do it, go ahead and do it. Just hop on, find Anchor. You can go, Anchor's a free app. You can start creating right now if you wanted to. So upload all your podcast, everything. You can do everything from your phone. You don't have to even have anything. So again, I tell everybody, now's the time. If you want to start learning how to do it, hop in, start doing it, get your message out there, because you have a story to tell. Everybody has a story to tell. That was the theme of why I got started, because Steve Sullivan told me one day when I posted my first video, he reached out to me through a direct message, and he told me, I love what you're doing. Tell your story. And I said, tell my story. Okay, now that's what I'll do. So, Carol, thank you for hopping on. Appreciate it. This is one of the ones I get to mark off my list now, because I do have a list of people that.
I do too.
Yes, you were one of mine. So thank you so much for coming on this evening. And then, one day I'm probably going to attack your partner whenever I get the chance, because I want to learn I want to hear about the other side of that story. You two guys have a
definitely
pretty good story. So, guys, thank you for hopping on this evening. Check out Carol's website. You can go to www.divine.com. You can go check out her blog. You can go check out their community. Check out their coaching program with the Life Flip, and you can also go check out their podcast, which I highly recommend. listening to. They really usually have really good guests on. So one more question about that. So who's the next big guest that you're having on? I saw that you had posted about that.
Oh yeah. So I'm a big fan of the movie E.T. and so is Deb. It's like in our top 10. So Dee Wallace, who played the mom in E.T., is going to be on the show.
Yes. So I would be just as thrilled as you if I ever got a chance to interview that kind of because again, you get those kind of people. You're like, how am I? You never think about it. 20 years ago, you never thought I would be talking to that lady.
No, never. But as you know, having a show gives you license to approach anybody, and yes. they can say no. But if they say yes, I'm like a little 13-year-old girl screaming my head off.
Yes, you're like, yes. So yes. Okay, everybody. So thank you again. Thank you, Carol, for hopping on. All the stuff will be in the show notes afterwards. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube Live, please do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm trying to build my viewership there. That way I can actually do a few other extra things for my YouTube channel, which I'm working on as well. You can also find these on Instagram. I've been uploading all the past episodes on my IG stories, or excuse me, my IGTV. You can go there and watch it there live as well. And, just thank everybody for joining the broadcast. And I will see you guys Monday. I will announce Sunday the roster of everybody that I have on for the week. So thank you, Carol, again for hopping on.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Yes, you have a great evening. Stay safe. Practice social distancing. Just be careful out there in the world because it is a new environment. And you guys have a good evening. We'll talk to you again Monday, 7 o'clock. Bye-bye, everybody. There we go. That was pretty fun, right?